Game day's here, I can hear the crowd. Turn on the lights, fans are cranked up and loud. Red or blue, we wear it proud. Yeah, we love our teams in this border town. Chiefs and Royals, Boo Mizzou, Rock Chalk, Jayhawk, KU. Hear that drum pounding in your feet. Yeah, you're marching to the beat of KC.
What is going on, YouTube? What is going on, Kansas City? What is going on, Jayhawk Nation? And what is going on, everybody? And welcome to the Beat of KC. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Lucas Murphy. And yet again, I have the pleasure of bringing you Kyle Collier from 810. Kyle, I need to ask you right out the gate, man. I'm going to need you to give me a little bit more than 18 minutes. So if you're going to tap out and sub yourself out, man, I need to know early on if that's going to happen.
No, I'm good to go. I'll give you 30 plus.
All right, that's what I need to hear, because I don't need you to be in social media because Kyle Collier's dropping out of Lucas's Beat of KC podcast. So but we're going to jump in, guys. We're going to provide you kind of some insight and really some upfront look at this Arizona matchup and why it's so important. And then we're obviously going to get into some other things about kind of Darren Peterson and really that Houston game. So we'll kick off with the Houston aspect. Coming into that game, man, we've had that game. I feel like any KU fan had that game highlighted really when the schedule came out. And I think they knew the importance of that game. I mean, what were your thoughts really kind of going into it? And then obviously how everything kind of transpired.
Yeah, and it was going to be KU's first look at Houston. I think last year they got Houston twice, but only got them once this year. And man, I just knew, this week was going to be just brutal schedule-wise because when you look ahead, you got number 2 Arizona coming up. But, I mean, before that Houston game, we were coming off that disappointment in Cincinnati, a game in which, we saw Darren Peterson play 25-plus, 30-plus minutes. Morale was certainly low, but I definitely trusted Bill Self. And that story that came out over social media of Bill Self, showing up to the Sunday morning camping groups, just firing the students up, I knew Bill was going to have the guys locked in, and it was certainly evident on Monday night.
I think that was special, man. I think it just shows you the commitment and really the belief from the student section. I mean, they're coming off that absolutely disgusting loss to Cincinnati, which they had absolutely, and I gave Cincinnati a lot of credit even in the pregame. I've talked Cincinnati up really throughout the year. I definitely don't think their record reflects what they're capable of doing. Yeah. It's just surprising to me that that's where they were at. But for the student section to immediately line up on Sunday morning and in preparation for that Houston game just speaks to their commitment and really their belief in this team. And, that Houston game, I think, man, what was most incredible about the Houston game is something I talked about kind of in the post game that I want to get your thoughts on. They just really, you can credit a lot to KU's defense, and I feel like there was a lot of that. But, man, they shot abysmal. Houston was just atrocious from across the board. I mean, a few of their premier players just were absent completely, and it was kind of incredible to see how they just could not shoot from the three. Both teams just struggled mightily in the first half. It was brutal to kind of watch. It felt like you were watching a JV game, high school basketball game for a while. I think we had 9 or 10 points with 10 minutes remaining in the first half. It was not good. So what were your thoughts really on Houston's performance in that game?
Yeah, and that's another reason I was a bit nervous just as a Kansas fan. Houston had come off, 2 straight losses. Obviously, KU made it 3 straight. The first time Houston had lost 3 straight in 8 years, since 2017. So I was nervous that a Houston Cougar team was going to come in there, ready to just go for the throat of the Jayhawks. Yeah, you're not kidding about the shooting performance. Houston shot 31% from the field, 5 for 24 from 3. It was brutal for them. Really, just watching them, their offense, they really just couldn't get anything going. KU did have double-digit turnovers, so that had me nervous as Kelvin Sampson had talked, before the game that, he needed to get his team more in transition. Felt like KU just kept giving them opportunities, especially early. I felt like the difference was just KU, their defense was just incredibly aggressive. Darren Peterson played well. Obviously, Flory played well. And Lucas, were you at that game?
No, I didn't get to attend. I wish,
Okay.
man, I
So,
really wish I could have.
and so, yeah, so I was watching the broadcast too, and Fran Fraschilla, he noted it several times, but, Flory he was defending guards, beyond the 3-point line. And there was a specific play in the second half that Flory contested a three and somehow got the rebound. Just incredible energy. And it's clear that Bill Self lit a fire under the guys, especially on the defensive end, coming off that loss to Cincinnati on Saturday. The defense for the Jayhawks was incredible. Houston really couldn't get anything going unless it was just Kingston Flemings, just using his speed to just create an open look, which he did many times, but, he didn't shoot all that well in that game either. KU was just the more aggressive team. They pretty much, let me pull up the stat here. Yeah, they doubled up Houston on free throws. Houston only took 9, KU took 20. So KU was just the aggressor, and it clearly mattered.
And I think there's a couple of things that I kind of want to address with what you're saying. I really felt like KU, like you said, the fire was there for sure. And I think that the motivation to knock off this type of team has kind of been really their forte. I mean, we did it against Iowa State in our house. It's almost like that this is our home outside of that Cincinnati game, which was just kind of like that weird game. But outside of that, man, it feels like they're like, this is our house. We're going to prove that we're that more predominant team. And I was kind of nervous because you said it, Houston was coming off those 2 losses. I mean, those were massive losses. And really what I kind of hit on, I felt like in this post or in the post game that I covered, I said, I feel like this is just kind of a culmination of all these teams playing such a difficult Big 12 schedule. Like, it's continuous. I mean, we saw the quick turnaround from that Cincinnati loss to turn around and have to play on Big Monday. And a lot of these Big 12 teams are doing that. And I think it's exhausting. I mean, the season's catching up to a few of these teams, and Houston seemed like it caught up to them. They just were kind of not necessarily lazy, but they just seemed a little bit slower. They weren't, as active. And the big thing that, Kelvin Sampson's teams are known for is the physicality.
Yeah.
And they just they lacked that physicality. So it's interesting, man. I'm excited to really talk to you about this Arizona game. And I think there's a big reason. My big concern, I really want to get your first thoughts on this, is we saw what we did to Arizona in our house. We saw what we did to Iowa State in our house. My big concern is that it could potentially be a similar situation where they go on the road and that their crowd is amplified. They're ready to roll. And we're going to go in and it's going to be a different story. What are your thoughts about that?
Definitely. Arizona's, they're going to be out for revenge, especially after, Kansas, ended their undefeated streak. They were 22-0, I believe, at the time, and then Kansas hands them their first loss of the season. And right now, Arizona, they're defending, the Big 12 regular season championship title right now. And, with the Big 12 tournament so close, this is the opportunity for them to, sort of hammer the nail in the coffin. So Kansas definitely has to be ready for that. A stat that has kind of worried me a little bit is just, home and road splits. I don't know if you've seen the one for Jamari McDowell. It's pretty rough, especially from deep. He shoots incredibly well in Allen Fieldhouse. Once he hits the road, I think he's only hit like 3 3-pointers in away games. That's definitely going to be something to watch out for. Now, what gives me, a little bit more optimism is I think Koa Pete for Arizona is battling an injury right now. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to go in this game. That can be pretty big for Kansas. But, I can't really take too much with that because we saw KU lose their best player and then still beat Arizona at home. So yeah, it could go either way.
For sure, man. Yeah, I really paid attention pretty closely when Arizona just played Baylor, and their guards absolutely erupted. I think Braden Burries had 25 points in that game. I think Jaden Bradley had 23. They were missing Koa Pete, and I do believe Koa Pete will be out of this game. But, man, if you're getting almost 50 points from your guards, that's pretty solid. I really think the counter that, though, is KU's defense. I mean, we talked about it with the Houston aspect. I think it comes down to that road game. Crevasse is going to be interesting. I get scrutinized in my comment section because they're like, you pronounce his name wrong, and it's Krivas, I think it is. But man, we saw what he was able to really do to Flory in that first half. Bill Self made those big time adjustments, and I think that paid off. And then Karchennikov obviously is another one that I get scrutinized for, and I think I got his name right that time. But I think, man, he's been kind of that dark horse for them in a lot of aspects. He's averaging 10 points a game. He's getting about 4 rebounds. But it's interesting, too. They got Toby Awaka coming off the bench, and that guy absolutely is just a boards machine. He's not really a point scorer. He's right around 9 points, but the guy's averaging almost 10 to 11 rebounds a game. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how they kind of change their playing style at home. And I'm excited for this game for sure. It's going to be interesting, man. Now, I really want to get your thoughts on, obviously, I don't want to look too far ahead, but we are currently sitting in second place with that win over Houston. You stated Arizona is still in first place, as we know, which is why this game is just so crucial. But we do turn around and play Arizona State, and then we finish out the season with K-State. And I do believe that they're going to have a pretty quick turnaround after this game, which is, again, why it's so impactful. But if we're able to pull this victory out, man, they go to Iowa State on Big Monday. Iowa State goes to Tucson. Mm-hmm. But, man, if we can find this win, we still have a pretty good chance at least getting a share or winning it outright. What are your thoughts on that?
In a market that never sleeps, one name rises above the rest. Lisa Miller from Dan Lynch Real Estate. Trusted by hundreds and recognized across the Midwest, she delivers results when it matters the most. With over 13 years of experience and licenses in both Kansas and Missouri, Lisa isn't just selling houses. She's helping you find a place to call home. Whether you are a first-time homebuyer, looking to upsize, or selling your current home, Lisa makes the process smooth and stress-free. As a local expert passionate about building lasting relationships, she ensures her clients feel confident and satisfied every step of the way. Don't wait, your perfect home is just a call away. Contact Lisa today at 913-579-3246 or 913-369-3000 or visit lisamillersaleskc.com. Let Lisa Miller at Lynch Real Estate help you start your next exciting chapter. And let her know the beat of KC, Lucas Murphy, sent you her way.
Yeah, I'll steal a line from Marty Schottenheimer. There's a gleam. If you squint, you can see it, but it starts with taking care of business against Arizona. And if you're going to do that, just use the blueprint that you created from that Houston game. Do that again. Now, I'm definitely not going to expect Arizona to go in there and shoot 30% from the field, 5 for 24 from 3. I'm definitely not going to expect a performance like that. But the advantage Kansas does have is just their physicality and their defense. It's clear that, even when they're running out of gas, in the second half, and I was in the building for that first Arizona matchup on Big Monday when we ended the undefeated streak there. Yeah, KU was they just had no quit in them. Now, I think Allen Fieldhouse definitely gives them a burst of energy that they might not get in Tucson. But, like you said, if you take care of business here, I won't call them easy W's because we've seen with this KU team that they've been kind of a roller coaster. I think everybody expected KU to get the win over Cincinnati, so you can't just sleepwalk through Arizona State and Kansas State. But, maybe the advantage here is that you play Arizona first, right? You should just let all your bullets fly in this game.
Yeah, most definitely, man. I think they need to, and I have a lot of faith. I do. I think that a team like this can find that internal fire, especially with how cohesive they are. That leads me really to this next question. We've seen pretty lengthy minutes as of late from Darren Peterson. Now, this last game against Houston, it's insane to me, man, because he goes out there and scores 14 points, but when you really look at the box score, he did not play well. He really didn't shoot the best. We're talking about a guy that scored 14 points. It's just pretty incredible, but that really kind of leads me to, do you think are we at that point in the season where we're past these issues of Darren Peterson having problems? Because we saw he hit that 3 ball against Houston. He looks over to Bill Self, and, it immediately started a fire on social media, whether Bill Self was actually telling him to get back and play because you're not coming out of the game, or was it the play previously where he just didn't guard? He just literally stood there and let the guard go right past him. There's a lot of questions around that, but my question is, do you think we're past the Darren Peterson issues and it's full go here on out?
I would certainly hope so, but unfortunately, I just can't say with 100%
Right.
certainty that we are. I mean, I think you, me, and every Kansas fan out there is, 30 minutes before tip, we're still going to have, those nervous butterflies. I mean, it's true. Like, we're going to go to that Arizona game, which, he dipped out 30 minutes before, less than 30. But Bill Self he talked about it post game after that game. Like, he found out an hour, like, yeah, he's not going to be able to go. Obviously, we're probably never going to know the real story. But, since that game, Bill Self's message, just in the media, like, he said, if you want to, shut those people up, you got to play.
Right.
And we've seen it so far. I definitely think Bill Self, sent a message to Darren Peterson with some of his comments to the media. It has seemed to work so far, not only for Darren, but, the entire team. The thing with Peterson is just like, if you pull something like he did against Oklahoma State again, I mean, he's got to think about, his draft stock, his future pro career. Like, if you do that, we're winding down to the biggest moments of the college basketball season. Now is when, business is starting to happen. Now it's real. So if he were to sub himself out again, it's definitely not going to be received positively. But I do have hope and optimism that Bill Self's message has been read loud and clear, and that DP is going to be a full go.
I thought it's interesting, too, because Bill Self mentioned in one of his press conferences, he's like, I feel like I really haven't even had the chance to coach him yet. And I thought that was so fascinating because I completely get what he's saying. Like, there's a series of practices, a stretch of practices he's missed due to injuries. And those are great learning opportunities to make him a better player and really kind of get this team more locked in together as a unit. And so it made sense to why he said that. It'll be fascinating, too, to see, because I feel like we're starting to see how big this got into the media and it got national coverage. Like, there were people talking on ESPN that I never thought would talk Kansas basketball that were actually like, is this kid for real? And I think when it starts to really impact...
Stephen A. Smith was one. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, and then even Scott Van Pelt, like on one of his night shows, was just like, man, now we got to talk Darren Peterson. And so I think now that it's starting to maybe impact his draft potential, I don't think he's necessarily not going to get knocked off that top spot. But when you start hearing about scouts and ownership groups that are questioning his ability, does his internal team start to say, man, we can't be doing this anymore. We gotta give it a go, man. And so it'll be interesting. And I think, too, what's kind of just to wrap this back towards the Arizona game, they haven't played Darren Peterson. And I think, with Koa Pete being out of this game, if that truly does come to fruition, KU has that advantage, is that they're going to send him out there, and they have not really addressed. When we first played him, he, like you said, he didn't play. So they're really going to have an opportunity to highlight Darren Peterson. Everybody and their mom is going to be watching this game, man, and it's going to be pretty incredible to see. But yeah, man, I think that's all I really got for you. Obviously, we finish out every video with a Final Four. My first one is going to be, what's the final score to this game? What is going on, Kansas City? The Beat of KC here. And I want to provide you an opportunity to check out one of the most coolest apparel companies that exist out there. We take pride in what we represent, and that's why the Beat of KC is teaming up with Homage, the brand built on celebrating sports, pop culture, and moments that defy us. Homage isn't just another clothing company. No, they're not. They specialize in ultra-comfortable, premium-quality apparel that blends vintage vibes with modern style. We're talking buttery soft tees, ladies and gentlemen, classic graphics, throwback logos, and iconic gear that brings real-life nostalgia back to life. From repping the Kansas City Chiefs to rocking the Kansas City Royals all season long, Homage helps you wear your loyalty loud and most definitely proud. Their designs honor legendary teams, unforgettable eras, and the culture that makes cities like Kansas City so special to you and I. And now through our partnership with the Beat of KC, you got the perfect excuse to upgrade your game day gear. Premium comfort, timeless style, pure KC pride. Make sure you guys scan that QR code if you're interested in any type of apparel related to Kansas City. Remember, Homage and the Beat of KC. Because in Kansas City, we don't just support the culture, we wear it.
Man. Well, with every Big 12 game, they've been rock fights so far. I'm not sure what the betting line is yet or the spread or anything. I think it's going to be within single digits for sure. Let me go 71-65 Kansas.
I like it.
Yeah.
I was thinking 75, like 69. I think it'll come down to like some fouls and some weird stuff at the end, and I think Kansas will find a way for sure. My next question to you is obviously we just kind of talked to Darren Peterson. How many points, if he does play the full game, what type of game are you anticipating from Darren Peterson?
Yeah, the funny thing about this Houston game is that, they obviously, like you said earlier, they're physical as hell. And every time, Darren Peterson, called for a pick and roll ball screen or anything like that, he got doubled. And it really just, it opened up things for the rest of the team. And last time you and I talked, we talked about how, Trey White was in a bit of a slump, it felt like, and obviously he goes out and is the leading scorer. And another thing I like that you said is, Bill Self just not having the chance to coach Peterson as much as he'd like. He's really been, coaching two different teams. And Arizona played one version. They're going to get the other version Saturday, we hope. Always have to throw that in there. So, yeah, if their game plan is to, just be physical with Peterson, we may see something similar to what he put up in Houston. I would expect that, he, as talented as he is, I think that Houston game, just the physicalness maybe just threw off the shot a little bit. And, as it got down late, Darren Peterson started knocking down some shots, right? I think he'll be able to do that. There are not going to be many games where Trey White is the leading scorer. I think DP is the leading scorer against Arizona.
I like it. I'm thinking 18.
18 to 20, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think 18, and I think you'll have some significant contributions from some of those other guards. I could see Trey White. I mean, that's incredible. He had that was the most points he scored this season in 23. And for him to kind of start to find that three ball again, I think is just so massive for this team. Now, my third question for you is, does Kansas win the Big 12?
Man, I'm going to say no. I know it's the pessimistic way of looking at it. I'm not sure if Arizona loses back-to-back. I think they're too good to let something like that happen. So, yeah, I'm going to say no.
Okay. And then I was going to ask you who the Kansas City Chiefs drafted 9, but this is obviously a Kansas video. And then I was going to ask you, do the Kansas City Royals make the postseason? But again,
I'm okay with the final 5.
Yeah, there we go. But obviously, this is a Kansas Jayhawks video. So I guess my first question to you my final question to you is do the Kansas Jayhawks find a way? And I really want to get this early out because I want to see if it changes. Do the Kansas Jayhawks win the Big 12 tournament?
Man, that's going to be probably the most watched tournament in a couple of years. Man, I want to say yes because, they'll pretty much just have home court advantage. I'm going to go with the optimism here. I think they lose out on the Big 12 regular season title, but I think they get hot. I believe in the Bill Self message. I believe there's a fire that's been lit. Your team's got to stay together. Your team's got to be a full go. I'm going to say yes.
I like it. I saw today, I think it was, if we were to get the 3 seed, then there's a chance we could face Cincinnati again. And I think, man, we need that redemption. But I also want them to win outright. I don't think if they won outright, they obviously wouldn't be the 3 seed. So I'm kind of torn, but at the same time, I really want them to win the Big 12 because I think, like, Kelvin Sampson obviously is like, he said in his post-game press conference, like, we've kind of run this league for a few years now. And like, man, that kind of shot some messages to me at least, because it's like, no, man, this has been KU's league for a while. We just had a few setbacks. I do have one more question for you, just because I had a conversation with my buddy today and we were going through and I told him, I was like, man, I really feel like this has been one of my favorite teams. And he sent me a thing where it was a former interview where Bill Self was talking to somebody, and they made Bill Self mention his top 5 favorite KU players. And I know in the last video we talked, I just asked you who was your favorite player, but man, it's just incredible to think about all the players that have come through Kansas. Can you give me your 5 favorite KU players of all time?
Okay. Last time we spoke, I told you Mario Chalmers. I
Yeah.
grew up wearing number 15. Mario was a big reason of that. And actually, Carlos Beltran was a big reason of that. He wore 15 as a Royal. So I'll put Mario in there to give me some shooting. I'm going to put Frank in there. I loved watching Frank Mason just drive to the cup. Just growing up playing basketball, that was the type of player I kind of wanted to be. I was shorter, I was stockier, but I was built and I felt like I could handle physicality like Frank. Obviously, it's a ridiculous comparison, but Frank and Mario I'll put in there. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I think Flory has really just creeped into my top 5. We've been able to watch so many great bigs just in our lifetimes. I'm going to put Flory in there. I'm thinking about wings and a power forward. Give me Ochai on the wing. I think his shot, it was just a beautiful thing to watch. And then give me Christian Brown.
Yeah.
I know these are all pretty recent, but Christian Brown he just makes all those hustle plays, and he's been paid handsomely in the NBA for his style of play. Freaky athlete, just incredibly aggressive. He's that glue guy that every Bill Self team seems to have. And if I didn't go with CB there, I would have gone with Kevin Young because he had a similar play style.
For sure. Man, I went through, and I think Bill mentioned like Wilt Chamberlain. He mentioned Paul Pierce. He really mentioned some of those like really like deep greats.
Legends, yeah.
Yeah, and his last one that he mentioned was Josh Jackson.
Wow.
And I was like, kind of like the same reaction, like, what? Like, dude, you had Frank Mason, the National Player of the Year. And so I really went through and I was like, I started listing off. So I'm going to list you off my favorites. And it's like, dude, I even started thinking like, there's so many more because I didn't mention Christian Brown, but I mentioned Nick Collison. That's really like that group, Paul Pierce, really like Nick Collison is really when I got involved into Kansas as like a diehard. But then like Kirk Heinrich, like, man, Jeff Boschee to me was always like one of my favorites. But then
there you go. That's
Keith
a good pull.
Langford. And then, like I enjoy watching bigs. I think just working down low, being able to slam the ball, like, but Cole Aldridge, Jeff Withey, Thomas Robinson's my favorite all-time player. But like Doak.
How did I forget Doak?
Like Joel Embiid, like, I mean, the fact that we had Joel Embiid on this team, but like Frank Mason, Graham, Christian Brown, Ochai, like Jalen Wilson. And then like I immediately went back to a little bit older and I was like Travis Relaford and like KJ. And, I really was a big fan of KJ. And I always like felt like he kind of got not necessarily the short end of the stick, but he just had a certain role and like he was just a huge contributor. And then of course DeJuan Harris, but I think DeJuan was special just because of his significance to dish the rock. But man, like we had some like as of late too, it felt like we've had some great basketball players come through, and it's just kind of you sit back and you reflect and you're like, where did those seasons go, man? Just like this year, it's like we're already getting ready to enter into the Big 12 tournament, and like we just had a flash in the pan of Darren Peterson, man, and it's like this is crazy, but. Yeah, it's nice to always go back and reflect and kind of pick those. So I wanted to pick your brain on that. But Kyle, I appreciate you coming on to the Beat of KC, man. As always, it's a pleasure to have you on. And we end every video the same way. Where can everybody find you?
Follow me on Twitter at Kyle Collier _810, and then find me here on Lucas's channel. Find me on Michael Darcy's channel, KC Sports Report, and then my day job, I produce the program with Seren Petro weekdays 2 to 6.
Heck yeah, you can hear Kyle throw in his 2 cents every once in a while. It's worth the listen. Everybody in Kansas City, I'm sure, listens to Seren. I know a lot. It was crazy, man. After I came onto the show with Darcy, you, and everybody, like I had a few people at work, they're like, "Hey man, I heard you on the radio." And I'm like, that's kind of pretty cool. Like you do it every day. Like people hear you every day. And here I am, like the one time I'm like, yes, they heard me on the radio.
Hey man, I mean, like a year ago or 2 years ago, I started there as a part-timer, that was my reaction as well. My parents would, text me while I was on the air, like, holy bleep, like, like you're getting on the air.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. But,
yeah, man, that's so sick. Well, guys, go check out, the show and everything. It's awesome. So I appreciate y'all. And we end every video the same way. Have a good day.